So the bottom, what did it say? Then Mishum Rishus Lo Danin. So these are, Rashi says, there's a little bit of a mitzvah, and still it's usher. So the Gemara is going to say soon the reason why these things are usher. What did it say? You're not allowed to make it in Torah. You're not allowed to marry. You're not allowed to do ibum and chalitza. The Gemara is going to say in a couple of lines the reason why it's usher is because you might come to write. That these things have to do with writing. After in Torah they write down the Psak Bezdin and the Kedushin. They write a Shtar Erisin and what else? Ibum and chalitza. They also write down that it was done. But first the Gemara, before it gets to that, before it gets to the reason why you're not allowed to do it, first the Gemara discusses why is it called a different category than the third category. There are three categories. There's a rishus, there's a shvus, that there's no mitzvah involved, and then there's a little mitzvah, and then there's a big mitzvah. So the Gemara calls, why is it called a little mitzvah? All these things about making it in Torah, marrying, ibum and chalitza, they're all mitzvah. So why is it not in the category of mitzvah? That's what the Gemara is concerned with first. So the Gemara starts. Why is it called a rishus? Lo danin. Well, mitzvah covered. It's a mitzvah to do it in Torah. There are other dayanim that are better than him, so it's not such a mitzvah. It's better mitzvah to let the other dayanim do it. But he's qualified, but he's not as good as the other ones. So he's doing something, but it's not considered a great mitzvah. Yeshakar. Thank you.
And that's why it's in the middle category.
That's right. That's why it's a middle category. And the next one, below Mukachim, they're not allowed to marry. That's a mitzvah. Why is it called rishus? A small mitzvah. It's a big mitzvah. But mitzvah covered to get married. But tzricha there is top of the page. But tzricha this like ishobon. He already has a wife and children. So to marry a second,
it's almost a very.
To do what?
No, it's talking about he's not second wife. He has already.
No, he has already Mekayim to Puri Ravua.
He was Mekayim Drew.
When he's not chayav to get married.
It's not in the base.
No.
So here it says Rashi says that then even somebody was Mekayim Drew already, he has already a boy and a girl, but it's still a mitzvah to have more. I just wondered in the Gemara that it doesn't say this like Banim, it says the Isho Banim. Because even if a person has children, so that the Gemara says he shouldn't stay without a wife. So that maybe that's what the Gemara means, that he also has a wife also. And now he's taking a second wife, like Rabbi Bam was saying. I think it's much that he has already a wife. Doesn't just say this Leibonim. If the only issue would be Pruavu, so he should have said this Leibonim. And to have more children is called small mitzvah, relatively. But the fact that it says Isha Bonim, maybe it's mashma that if he would not have a wife, then it's also mitzvah. Like the Gemara says the Layam Isha below Isha. So I'm saying that Rashi only talks about the children. That's what I'm saying. Rashi doesn't talk about the children. I'm talking about the fact that the Gemara also says Isha. It doesn't just say this Leibanim. It says this Isha Banim. So I think that the Gemara means to say that if he wouldn't have a wife, even if he has children, there still be a mitzvah.
Well, they said the bigger mitzvah is to marry the woman who's divorcee.
That's not the subject at all. Mom is not the subject. Mom is not the subject.
Another way to have additional children is from the non-mandatory.
Good. So now you get everything into it. He has a wife, and now he's getting more. He has a wife, he's getting in order to have more children. The Mishnah continues. Also, before we get to the reason why it's us, first, why is it only considered a rishus? Why is it not a mitzvah? A mitzvah kovid. That if he'd be the oldest brother, then it's a mitzvah mamish. But even if he's not the oldest brother, so and it's not the main mitzvah of Yibum is that the oldest one should do it. So that's why it's not called mamish mitzvah. It's called a small mitzvah. And if he would be the oldest, the Rashi tries to talk about over here that even if it would be a mamish mitzvah, also we said that even on a big mitzvah, also they made this a rabbanon. And now the Gemara gets to the issue of why talking to the Asa all these things. Also, you might come to write. What are you going to write by these things? So Rashi tells us that by din psak din, the dinin, shtar yeris and kedushin, shtar chalitza lechalatzes, uksuba liyabama. That Rashi says ksuba. So Rashi says that by the din to write down what the psak was, and kedushin also shtar yerison, which I forgot if that means that it's actual shtar that the makadosh with. I forgot what the shtar yerison means. And shtar chalitza is the chalitza is not a shtar. The chalitza is the actual process, but procedure. But they write a shtar to give her proof that she was freed and she's allowed to marry now. And Rashi says for Yavama, he says ksuba. That now she gets a ksuba, which does Yibum. So that's a chash. They might come to write it on Shabbos and Yontif. So therefore, you don't do these mitzvahs or reshuyos on Shabbos.
I thought that a younger brother Bichlal is not a mitzvah, therefore he's not allowed to marry her even the chatchila.
The chatchila, the oldest one, but if somebody else does, it is Yibum. It's considered Yibum, it is Yibum. But the first one, the oldest one is supposed to do it. It doesn't mean there's no mitzvah, there is a mitzvah. But the oldest brother is supposed to do it. Mitzvah. And that means that even though there's a mitzvah to consecrate things, to give erchin, to dedicate things to the Bedek Habayis, but you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos and Yantiv. And why is that? Because it looks like business. The fact that you're transferring into somebody else's rishus, you're giving it over to the hektish, so it also looks like a sale of some sort, and you're not allowed to make sales. Why are you not allowed to make a sale? That the Gemara doesn't say. Rashi says either because that the that there's a pasuk, not the Daraisa, but it says it in the pasuk in the Navi Yeshaya that a person should don't go around your own business on Shabbos. And also he says might come to right, which is very similar to the first Gemara. So Rashi says maybe business is also because you might come to right. Nowadays that they do make all kinds of appeals and they sell aliyahs and things like that, so it's not so simple. How are you allowed to do that? I didn't see the posting, but here it sounds, even though it's a mitzvah, you're not allowed to be makdish and marich and kibbutz kabayis. So how do they make all these things in the shul to donate things? Not simple. So it makes it pretty real. How much the paper clips are saying how much he's going to give. He's donating. He's like, what does it say? Like marich. What does marich mean? That he says I'm obligating myself to give so much money because this person's value. So why is it different than saying I'm going to give the shul 18 shekel? Why is it different? Why are you allowed to do that on Shabbos? And you know it's a mitzvah. You're giving it to hektish, still a sasa. So I didn't look into it, but it seems that it's not so simple. The heter of making all kinds of obligations.
The only heter that I could, and just saying one appeal might be mutter, but it's all.
It's not Pikuach Nefesh right now. It's not Pikuach Nefesh right now. It says you're allowed. It says you're allowed to poskin. What does it say? It does say something about poskin stucca. Maybe it does say. But that's called Chepsei Shemayim. But here it's not called Chepsei Shemayim. To give erchin, it's not called Chepsei Shemayim. All these things, Magdishin, Marichin, Machrimin, you're not allowed to do it. I'm not saying it's us. I'm not saying that it's probably should be looked into on this sugya. Why are you allowed to donate things to hektish, basic knesses, these things? Maybe it's stuck as mutter. I don't know. This is the last thing that you're not allowed to separate Truma and Maishas on Shabbos and Yontif, and it doesn't say, well, here the Gemara doesn't say why. Rashi told us a couple of times because you're metakin. So here the Gemara is very strange. It says Pshita. Pshita that is Asa. Why is it Pshita? So it's very difficult. Why is it Pshita? Some take out the Girsa. Take out the Girsa Pshita. It's not Pshita. If you go Pshita, what does it mean? Because it's Tikkun Mana, and for sure, for Tikkun, that you're fixing it up, that till now was not edible, now it's edible. It's much simpler to take out the word Pshita. Rashi seems that it didn't have it. Tani Rav Yosef, Lo Nitzrucha, or Rashi's Afilu, Ella Litna L'Kohen Bo B'Yom. Even if you're going to give it to the Kohen on the same day, it's also us. What does it mean? What's the difference if you're giving it to the Kohen or not? Because separating it, not giving it to the Kohen, the whole purpose is only to make the food permissible. So you had food which was not permissible, was tevel, and now that I separated it, now it's edible. You give it to the Kohen, you give the Trumas and Maishas to the Kohen, then it looks a little bit more like you're doing it for the purpose of giving it to the Kohen, not to be metakin anything. So maybe it'll be more mutter, still a sasa, because the Maishas are being metakin the chulin that's left over. So that's the Gemara's chiddush. Yosef says even if you're giving it to the Kohen, and it looks a little bit like you're doing it for the purpose of giving it, not for the purpose of making your tevel chulin, still a sasa, because the Maishas you are making your tevel chulin. That's called the tikkun mana. So you're not allowed to fix it up to food. So you're not allowed to be mafish Trumas and Maishas on Shabbos and Yantif. Bani Mili, this we had many times already. That's Chali, you are allowed to take off on Yantif. Bani Mili period the Tfilim Esmal. This is only if it was very Tevel yesterday, and you could have separated yesterday. I will period the Tfili Ha'idna, but if it just became Tevel today, then it's mutter. What's the case? You go on Isa, Lafusha Minochala, Mafrishina, Viavino Lukohen. That if you have a dough that you made just today, and you want to separate challah from it, you can't eat it without taking off challah, then you are allowed to. So this only happens on Yantif. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to make a dough. But on Yantif, if you're allowed to make a dough, you're allowed to take off challah also. We had a sugya in the beginning of the Masechta, if you made the dough before Yantif, are you allowed to take off challah? We came out that you're not allowed to. There was a sugya about it, and we came out that you're not allowed to. Only if the dough was made on Yantif, then you were not able to do it before Yantif. You couldn't take off challah before it was made into a dough. So then you're allowed to be mafish challah. Hani, the next one. Hani. First of all, just explain the mission. He says this is Rishus, this is Shvus, this is Rishus, this is Mitzvah. So we explained already the Maskana that it means everything's a Shvus, but this is a Shvus even though it has no Mitzvah. This is a Rishus, this is a Shvus even though it has a small Mitzvah, and this is a Shvus even though it has a big Mitzvah. That's how we explain the mission. This is the Gemara's Maskana, but first the Gemara just thought that it just says that this is a Rishus, this is a Shvus, this is a Shvus, this is a Rishus, this is a Mitzvah. It doesn't say that it's Asa. Why? It's missing a word. Ani mishum Rishus, Ika mishum Shvus Leka. The second and third categories, it doesn't say that it's asur. It should have said it's also everything's a shvus. All categories are shvus. That's our drabanan. Some also have a mitzvah, some also have a shvus, but they're all shvus. So why does it only say the first category is a shvus? All of them are shvus. Rabbi Yitzchak, that's what it means. Let me buy kama. Let me buy shvus grei dasa dasa. Ela filu shvus to rishus nami asur. Let me buy shvus to rishus asur. Ela filu shvus to mitzvah nami asur. That's what it means. It's saying the first case is only a shvus. The first case only entails this rabbanan, and there's nothing there. There's no mitzvahs. Then it says even if it has a rishus, it's also a shvus, and even if it has a mitzvah, it's also a shvus. That's pshat in the Mishnah, and that's what it means. There are three categories. All of them is asur rabbanan, and the first one doesn't have any kind of mitzvah aspect, and the second has a little bit. The third one is even bigger, and they're all asur on yantiv. It says that these things are asur on yantiv and all times. And the Mishnah, but they really changed just these words. They changed. That's not what the Mishnah. That's not really what was going on. It's really going on the words of Ein Ben Yantif L'Shabbos Haloch Nefesh Muvan. That's really what we should erase this and put something else in between. That it's going on V'chulu, etc. It's going on the words of the Mishnah that Ein Ben Yantif L'Shabbos Haloch Nefesh Muvan. And that's what the Gemara is going to ask. You're saying there's no difference between Yantif and Shabbos only Ochel Nefesh. You're a minu.
We take out.
Yeah, and put in Ein Ben Yantif L'Shabbos Haloch Nefesh Muvan, which is the Mishnah. The last words of the Mishnah. You look in the Mishnah, that's what it says over there. Yeah. Yeah, we'll go back up on the screen. Here it is. Ein ben yantif l'Shabbos el ha'ochel nefesh muvan.
The last word.
Yeah. So now we jump back to where we are. We're in the middle. You're saying there's no difference between yantif and Shabbos, only ochel nefesh. The Mishnah at the beginning of the Mishnah before. Meshilim peres de'acharu b'yantif avolo b'Shabbos. Here you have it. There's not ochel nefesh. Over there, you're doing it because of hefsid. You're not doing it for ochel nefesh. Why are you taking in the peres down the skylight? Because it's going to rain. You're not eating the stuff. So you see that there's a heter of yantif hefsid, even though on Shabbos it's asur. So why you say the only chiluk is only if it's ochel nefesh? Rav Yosef. First one line, reverse of Lokasha. Oh, Belazar Bishua. The more things that it found, Rav Elazar says he found a machlokas between. Rav Yosef says he found the chiluk between Rav Elazar and Bishua. This issue, if you make on yantif more than on Shabbos for hefsid. The Tanya, he had a brisa. Also, there's been no shalom to the bor. Two animals fell into a bor. One, but it happens to be that it's the mother and the child, the animal, the cow and the calf. Now the halach is that you're not allowed to shech both of them because that's also less b'no. You're not allowed to shechatu b'yom echad. So even if you want to eat one, you can't eat both of them. So is there any heter to take out the one that you're not going to eat? To take out the one you're going to eat. So you're being torech for ochel nefesh because you're going to eat it. But the second one, you're not going to be eating. You're not allowed to eat it today. You can't shecht it. So are you allowed to be torech to take out the animal out of the bar? But Belazar says no. But Belazar take out the one that you want to and shecht it. And the second one you can't take out. The other one, take care of it, whatever you could. Give it whatever it needs that it shouldn't die. Bring a pillow, whatever, some food, whatever you need. Make it comfortable as you can. That it shouldn't die, but you can't take it out because you don't need it for ochel nefesh. But the Bishua says that it's heter of hefsid because of the pseda. There is going to be a heter. You take out the first one, say I'm going to eat it. Then you don't check it, and then you say I like the other one better. And then you take up harama and you say I want to eat the second one. First I want to eat the first one. Then I change my mind. I want the other one. And then then you could do whichever one you want. Some Mepharshim say, and you don't have to check anything either because it's I'm not hungry. It's only aroma to get it out. You look as if you're eating, and that's why it's mutter because I want to eat. And then you say I don't want to eat. I change my mind. Well, I don't change my mind. So you see that Rav Yeshua is makel because of hefsed on yontif, and this doesn't apply to Shabbos. The Shabbos you don't have the whole thing anyway because there's no case of shechting. But you see that it's a heter of a hefsed on yontif. So he's going to be the man that says it's a machlokes now. Our Mishnah says that ein v'yantif l'Shabbos aloch nefesh b'lvad that's a belazar, and there's no heter of he's going to say ein meshilin pairs b'yantif. He's going to argue on that Mishnah. These two Mishnahs are going to argue. The Mishnah that says meshilin is like a b'shua that you're allowed to do some kind of tircha for hefsid, and Rabbi Elazar holds no, you're not allowed to. And these two machlokes in meshilin pairs derech haruba is only a b'shua, and the first word of our parak meshilin pairs b'yantif.
Oh yeah.
The parak a couple of pages ago that you're allowed to lower down. Yeah. So that's a heter of hefsid, and you're not eating it. It's a heter of hefsid. So Bishur will say that he has a term for hefsid, and Rabbi Elazar will not hold of it. So the Mishnah Bayas that says ein v'yantif l'Shabbos eloch nefesh b'lvad Rabbi Elazar, and the Mishnah that says meshilin that v'yantif of below Shabbos is Rabbi Yeshua. But the Gemara says it's not comparable. Amalei Abaye said to Rav Yosef, what's the comparison? You might. Dilma Adkan Lakam Rabbi Lazar Asam El Efshe Bepanasa. Avalocha Lo Efshe Bepanasa Lo. Rabbi Lazar is machmir only because the other animal's not going to die. The animal that's in the bore, you could take care of it in the bore. So you won't take it up. So it'll be uncomfortable for the rest of Shabbos, but it's not going to die. You're not going to have a big financial loss. But over here, the parents that are going to get wet, it sounds like it's going to get ruined. So then maybe it's also going to be matir. So don't say Rabbi Lazar doesn't hold that Mishnah. Inami the other direction. Rabbi Shua is only matir hefsid to do a trick. It's at least it's clothed in some kind of a loophole. That you think it looks like you're going to eat it, but here when you're taking down the food down the skylight, no one's eating it. You're not showing as if you're eating it, so you don't see a bishul with matir. So he doesn't see how these two mishnayos have anything to do with the machlokas of lezer bishul. There is such a machlokas over there, but not necessarily. Does it have to do with our sugya? So he doesn't agree. Elam Papa. So Papa said a new answer to reconcile the two mishnayos. Lo kasha. Shammai is machmir, and he's going to say only ochel nefesh. The only difference between Yom Tov Shabbos is ochel nefesh, no term of hefsid and meshilin. But Basil, he's the one who has more term. He's going to say you can do things for hefsid also. Why do we see the Shammai Basil about this? So he doesn't bring something about hefsid, but he brings a different issue. That we have this already. You're not allowed to carry things that are not food in Rishus on Yom Tov. It's also to carry. On Yom Tov, only carrying for food. But you can't carry a child, you can't carry even for the Bris Milah, you can't carry a lulav, you can't carry a Sefer Torah, because you're carrying. And we said before that you're not allowed to do. You don't say mitoch shahutra, l'tzarach chutra shlo l'tzarach, and you don't and the erev atzal the yom tov. So Bisham says you're not allowed to carry. We still say you could carry. We still matirin. So therefore, the Gemara thinks that we still matir even not the tzarach ochel nefesh. They're also going to be matir hefsedim. That by Seder also you can do our Mishnah of Bashil and Paris, even though it's not Ochel Nefesh, also is Matir. It does not have to do with the Sugya of Bitoch, because there's no Malacha being done over here. It's just a Tircha. But the Gemara sees that Bashil is Matir more than Mishamah. But the Gemara says maybe not good comparison. Then Malohi, maybe it's not a good comparison. Outcome the Kamer Bashil is Shamay Hassam El Lautza about Tilta Lo. Maybe two different subjects. Outside he's Matir. There's a Malacha of outside. You're not allowed to carry. But here he says Matir on the same reason to say that you're not allowed to take the things down the roof, down the skylight. It's not a question of what's it's just carrying. The one makes out the word tiltal usually means muksa. Here I don't understand because it's not muksa over here. These Mashil and Peres is not muksa. So I'm a little bit confused with this word tiltal. Usually tiltal means muksa. There is no muksa over here. Mashil and Peres, Rashi Beferish, that the Sugi before said Mashil and Peres is only dafka non muksa. You're not allowed to move muksa, take it out to save it. So, but here the Gemara says, Ishtamai Asers Hotzah. Do you see that he asks us to carry? Stam. The Gemara says, Otu tiltal lav tzarech hotzahu. That these are one of these Gemaras where it talks about that the reason the Mefarshim explain that has to do with Muksa, and here's where you see that the Isser of Muksa is connected to the Isser of Hotzah. That the reason why they asked it Muksa, why did they ask it Muksa? Anybody know? It's a famous question. Why did they make such Isser of one called Muksa? So here it says the Mefarshim explained that it says because it's going to might come to carry out. Rashi says really it's just everything. Don't move anything because you might come to carry it out, but you have to. It's not possible because if you're going to make that you can't move anything, you have to move food, you have to move things, you have to things that are mutter. So they said, but the Isser of Muktzah is based on the Shash you might carry out. There's a Rambam that says a bunch of reasons that you shouldn't be busy on Shabbos and you should. Some people don't have what to do, so the whole week they're not doing anything on Malacha. So there are different reasons of Muktzah. So they bring this Gemara to be a source for the Ravid that says it's because of Hotzah. But the truth is that's not so simple at all because the Gemara here is not Muktzah. The Gemara says Mashil and Paris is not Muktzah. So when the Gemara says Hotzah is to do a tiltal, L'chara just means moving, doesn't mean moving Muktzah. But anyway, the Gemara comes out just to explain the Askana, the Gemara, the contradiction to Mishnais. Our Mishnah says, we had the first Mishnah, the Perik said that there's a heter of Hefsid, Mashil and Paris. It doesn't have to do with Ochel Nefesh. So the Gemara says, but still it's going to be Matir. And the Natak L'Shabbos says, Bishama is talking. Bishama is very strict about this issue. Only Ochel Nefesh, it's not Ochel Nefesh, no differences. And even the heter of Hefsid, Bishama would not agree to. And we do hold the heter of Hefsid because we hold of this alone.
Even not Ochel Nefesh.
Yes. That's the case of Mashil and Paris. Yes, Mashil and Paris is not because you're going to eat it. You just want to take it down. It's a tircha. You're working to get down the stuff that it shouldn't get ruined. It's not muktzah, but you're working. So it says don't work too much. If you have to pick it up and over the window, that don't do, and don't go down the steps. But you throw it down the skylight, you're allowed to. That's enough tircha that you're allowed to do. And don't do more. But the Beishama wouldn't permit even that. Next Mishnah. Now the rest of the Masechta, a couple of pages now, is about Tchumen. There's a tchum on Yom Tov also. And so a lot of these halachas apply to Shabbos also. But here's where we have Tchumen in Maseches Eruvin, but this talks about things that we didn't have over there. And many sugyas, it could be that's more applicable of Yad Yom Tov because you're allowed to carry. And Yom Shabbos are not allowed to carry. So Tchumen about objects doesn't apply too much on Shabbos. But Yom Tov it does much more. So many halachas, and a couple of Mishnahs coming up now, a couple of pages still, that'll be about Tchumen. One Mishnah still at the end is not going to be Tchumen, but the rest of the Masech is mostly about Tchumen on Yom Tov and Shabbos. So here it says, so what do we know about Tchumen? That when a person with Rabbanan, Tchumen is Rabbanan, we just had a couple of pages ago, that Tchumen is Rabbanan, 2,000 amas, and you're not allowed to go out of the limit of 2,000 amas past your limits. So if you're alone someplace in the midbar, in a place no civilization, so then you have 2,000 amas out of your dollar amas. If not, you can walk the whole city past that 2,000 amas in each direction. And it's such thing called the Erev Tchumen in order to shift your pivot where you're stationed for. You had all that in Eruvin. Now it says a big chiddush that not only are you limited to your tchum, that a person's animals and utensils also have the same tchum as the owner. So just like you can't go out of your tchum, so your utensils can be taken out of your tchum, even though somebody else, let's say, made an Erev Tchumen, or he overlaps your tchum and he wants to take out your animal or out of your tchum. No, my animal and my utensils, my belongings, are limited to my tchum. That's the first halacha. Good, everyone's happy with that? Big chiddush that you can't take somebody's utensils and animals out of his tchum. He can't go because he can't go, but somebody else might take it out. No, you can't take somebody's animals or kalim out of the owner's tchum. The next halacha, offshoots of this halacha, what if a person gives his animals over to his son to take care of, or to his shepherd? Does it go with the tchum of the owner or the shepherd who's taking care of it? Still, it belongs to the owner and it goes with his. Even if the shepherd might have made a tchum, Erev Tchumen, you can't go with the shepherd. It's limited to the owner's tchum. If there's kalim that are designated to one of the brothers, it seems, and I didn't see this, I didn't prepare these couple of lines, but we'll try, that if you have brothers that are yashin together, they have two sabais, they have the joint inheritance that they didn't divide yet, but it's designated to him. I don't know if designated means that they already divided it, or just they designated it's going to become his, then it goes according to his own tchum. But if the case is that it's all a shutfis, they're not designated to him, they belong to everybody jointly, so then it has to be, everybody has to be mutter. It means if one brother has a tchum one way, the other way, the other one another way, it's only mutter to carry this object only in a place that everybody's allowed to go. If it has two owners, it has to be mutter to everybody's tchum. Not that it goes to anybody's tchum, it has to go with everybody. It has to be that everybody's allowed to go there. And the next halacha, how about a borrow? You borrow something. Does it go with the lender or the borrower? Whose is it? So it says if you borrow, it depends what happened. When Yantav came in, if it was borrowed already, he borrowed it in Erev Yantav, then it goes with the borrower. That wherever his tchum is, that's what it belongs to. But if he borrowed it on Yantav, so when Yantav came in, it was still in the lender's hands, then it goes with the tchum of the lender. What if somebody, a woman, she borrowed from her friend spices and water and salt for her dough? She's making a dough and she needs some, she goes next door, she needs some sugar with this. So then they want to take the bread someplace, but it has partly my ingredients, partly somebody else's ingredients. It's only to take the bread to a place where everyone's allowed to go, because the dough is mine, but the water, the flour is mine, the water is somebody else's. So this thing is like a joint ownership that is only mutter to take this object in the place where everybody's allowed to go. You can't take it out of anybody's tchum. Rabbi Yehuda says, I agree to the salt and to the spices, but the water not, because the water, it doesn't have any more substance. It blends in with the rest of the flour, and you don't see it anymore standing by itself. So therefore, that's what doesn't exist. You want to share those couple words at the bottom? Rashi says, Shein Bohem, Shein Bohem Mamash, over there, Ein, one line up, Ein Yikor Slow B'Geder V'Lo B'Isa, Hiltichei Makvo Solochasen, that you don't see it, you don't see the water, so therefore it doesn't exist anymore. And I didn't see the Rashi. Tomorrow we'll elaborate a little bit more on this Mishnah, and to be continued tomorrow. Yes, everybody, thank you, and Bez Hashem will be catching up. Just to point out that the CM in Beth Shem is supposed to be on Sunday.
Sunday.
We're supposed to finish Sunday, if everybody wants to, so we'll have lunch together. It doesn't have to be as elaborate, maybe, but maybe we'll get together, make some pizza or something. That was a suggestion. So Bezrat Hashem on Yom Rishon. And then Yom Sheni starts Maseches Rosh Hashanah. Yeshikach, everybody. Thank you.
Should we
Thank
go
you.
Tomorrow a little longer.
Yeah, I'll try to go longer tomorrow again if we could, to catch up. Yeah,
Friday.
Friday, tomorrow's Friday.